"Excuse me, sir." A tiny voice echoed across the sterile hospital hallway. "Do you know where I can buy a heart for my mom?" The CEO of one of the biggest tech empires in America, Alexander Graves, froze mid-step. And in that moment, his entire world unraveled. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, share with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe for more real-life, inspired emotional stories. The hospital hallway smelled of antiseptic and despair. People walked briskly past room after room, clutching test results, clinging to hope, or surrendering to fate. Among the crowd stood a man whose name alone could shift stock markets, Alexander Graves. Suited in midnight black and tailored to perfection, he was here not for business meetings or shareholder disputes. He was here because the one person who ever loved him without condition, his younger sister, Amanda, lay in a coma after suffering sudden cardiac failure. The irony? A man with billions at his fingertips, yet unable to buy the one thing his sister desperately needed, a new heart. His phone buzzed, board meetings, new acquisitions, and press inquiries. But for once in his life, Alex didn't care. He sat down heavily on the bench, elbows on knees, head in hands. Then it happened. A tug on his jacket. He looked up to see a little girl, no more than 8, her clothes faded, her face smudged with dried tears and dust. She had eyes too mature for her age, the kind that had seen more pain than play. Her voice trembled as she repeated her question. "Do you know where I can buy a heart for my mom?" Alex blinked, stunned. "What did you say?" "My mommy's sick, really sick," she said, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit in one hand and a wrinkled envelope in the other. "The doctor said she needs a new heart to live. And I thought maybe you'd know. You look rich." Alex felt a lump rise in his throat. In all his years, through all the high-rise meetings and all the deals worth hundreds of millions, nothing had ever disarmed him like this. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lena," she whispered. "Lena Moore." He didn't know why, but he stood up and walked with her to the ICU. Her mother, Clarissa Moore, was hooked to a mess of machines, each beep counting seconds that seemed to stretch forever. A nurse said she'd been admitted just that morning. No insurance, no family, a single mother. The hospital had already issued a transfer notice for a county facility with less capability. The nurse also mentioned the girl had stayed outside the emergency room all night, afraid to leave her mom. Alex stood there for what felt like an hour, staring at Clarissa's pale face. Something about her was familiar. Then it hit him. Years ago, when he was still building his company, before the headlines and the private jets, he'd been in a car accident during a snowstorm. It was a woman in a beat-up minivan who pulled over and wrapped him in a blanket while they waited for help. She'd refused his money. Her name, he now remembered, was Clarissa Moore. Fate had brought her daughter to him. "Sir," the nurse said gently, "we'll need to move her by noon." "Don't," Alex said. "Not another inch. I'll cover everything." The nurse blinked in shock. "Sir, her condition. Get the best heart transplant team in the country. Fly them in. Charter a jet if you have to. Do it now." He didn't know why his voice cracked. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was gratitude. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because the innocence in Lena's voice had reached a corner of his soul he thought long buried. That evening, Alex sat with Lena outside the ICU, watching as the doctors worked. She leaned against him and asked, "Did you find a heart?" "Not yet," he replied gently, "but we're looking. We'll find it. I promise." Days turned to weeks. Alex had taken temporary leave from his company. News broke about the billionaire CEO who canceled a global tech summit to stay by the side of a sick woman and her daughter. Rumors swirled, but none mattered. Every day, he'd bring Lena books, snacks, or simply sit beside her and tell stories about space and stars, things she liked. And in return, she taught him how to believe in magic again. But Clarissa's condition worsened. No matching donors. No miracles. One night, Lena sat curled up on a chair, her eyes half closed. "I prayed last night," she said quietly. "I told God he could take anything from me. My toys, my house, even my birthday. If he just gave mommy a new heart." Alex blinked hard. "Lena, I don't want another mommy," she whispered. "I just want mine back." He left the room before she could see him cry. That same night, as if summoned by her innocent plea, something shifted. A young woman in another city, a teacher, passed away in a car accident. She was a registered donor. Her heart was a perfect match. Alex pulled every string, moved every mountain. Within 18 hours, the heart was flown in. The surgery lasted 6 hours. He didn't leave the waiting room for a second. And when the doctor finally came out, removing his mask with a tired smile, he said the words Alex had longed to hear. "She's going to make it." When Clarissa woke up 2 days later, she found her daughter asleep beside her, and a man in a black suit sitting silently in the corner. "Alex," she rasped. He stood. Stunned, she remembered him. "You're the man from the highway," she said weakly. "The snowstorm. And you're the woman who saved my life," he replied softly. Clarissa tried to sit up. "What's going on?" "You were dying. Lena asked me where she could buy a heart for you," Alex said, voice trembling. "So I gave her what I could. Resources, doctors, hope." Clarissa looked at her daughter, then back at Alex. "Why would you do this?" He smiled, eyes wet. "Because you once saved a stranger without asking anything in return. And because your daughter reminded me that some things are more powerful than wealth. Love, courage, selflessness." Lena stirred and woke up, eyes brightening as she saw her mom. "Mommy, your heart, it's new." Clarissa opened her arms, and Lena threw herself into them. In that moment, the cold halls of the hospital melted. For once, there were no millionaires or poor, no donors or recipients. Only a mother holding her daughter, and a man who rediscovered his own heart through the innocence of a child. A reporter stood outside the hospital, speaking into a mic. Today, Alexander Graves, once known as America's toughest CEO, just established the Lena Foundation, a program that provides urgent transplant funds for low-income families. When asked what inspired him, he simply said, "Cut to Alex, holding Lena's hand. She asked me where she could buy a heart for her mom. And I realized, in a world driven by money, some hearts are still only moved by love." In the world of business, Alexander Graves was considered ruthless. But in the world of humanity, a little girl taught him what it means to feel again. Her question was simple, but its echo changed lives. Because some things can't be bought. They can only be given.